if we live absolutely faithful lives as disciples of Jesus Christ, if we love him with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love our neighbors as ourselves, that still makes no guarantees about how things turn out for us in an earthly sense in this life. You know, you hear people say there's no safer place than the center of God's will. Well, if you're talking about eternal safety, that's absolutely true. But if you're talking about this life, it's not true. There are no guarantees. I love Hebrews 11, or at least most of it. You know, Hebrews 11 is the hall of faith. So the author is listing all these heroes of the faith and telling their stories. And then at the end of that chapter, he sort of feels like he's running out of time because he realizes this could go on all day. And he says, "What more shall I say? For time will fail me if I tell of Gideon, Barak, Jephthah, Samuel, David, and the prophets, who by faith conquered kingdoms, performed acts of righteousness, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, from weakness were made strong. They became mighty in war, putting foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection." You know, he's just listing all these great victories. And I love those stories. Those are great stories. Unfortunately, the author doesn't stop there. He continues. He talks about others. He says, others were tortured, not accepting their release, so that they might obtain a better resurrection. Others experienced mockings and scourgings, yes, also chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were tempted. They were put to death with the sword. They went about in sheepskins, in goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and pits and holes in the ground. These men and women were also heroes of the faith. And yet, things turned out for them so differently than all of these people listed earlier in the chapter that experienced great victories. So, how do you get into the Hall of Faith? Well, it's not by if your story has a happy ending or a sad ending, obviously. It's the risks you're willing to take and the sacrifices you're willing to make. You see, if you think about it, all of these heroes of the faith were in extreme circumstances. Now, some of them, it turned out well, some of them it didn't. They all had the same faith, though. The faith of Azariah, Hananiah, and Mishael, or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Remember, they said, "Our God is able to deliver us from the flames, O king. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow down to your idol." Now, in their case, God did see fit to deliver them for his glory. But some of these other people had the same faith, took the same risks, and for some reason, God saw fit not to deliver them. And so they died this way, that way. They were tortured this way, that way. They suffered this way, that way. But they had the same faith. The common element, again, is the risks they were willing to take and the sacrifices they were willing to make. There's no guarantee if there'll be a happy ending or a sad ending on this earth. Eternally, absolutely. We will have eternal reward with the Lord, and it will be wonderful. But on this earth, there's no guarantees. So all we're called to do is to make those sacrifices, take those risks for the sake of the kingdom. And that is how you get into the hall of faith. And that is a disciple that's worth multiplying. God delights to multiply that kind of faith.